Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Dwayne Kimball, United States Army veteran and retired VA rating specialist. Today I'm bringing you another educational video as it pertains to the VA compensation claims process. The topic of discussion: what is supposed to happen when a veteran files an increase for a service-connected mental diagnosis and that diagnosis has changed. I'm going to share some information with you and break it down what I did as a former rater and what's supposed to happen per the VA regulations. Let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, what is supposed to happen when a veteran is diagnosed and service-connected for a mental condition, and that veteran goes in for an increase for that mental condition, and the diagnosis changed? What is supposed to happen? Now, before I get into my slides, I want every veteran out there that's watching this video, if you decide to have a private examiner to complete a review DBQ for your service-connected mental condition, and the diagnosis has changed, what I'm about to show you needs to go in that DBQ in the remarks section. If not, that DBQ is insufficient for rating purposes. Also, if you don't have a DBQ, private examiner to complete a DBQ, and you go to that CMP exam, this is another reason why you need to submit that FOIA request and get a copy of it, because if the rater does not catch what I'm about to tell you, that exam is insufficient, okay? So let's go ahead and get into it. You know I love some slides, and I got a couple for you today, all right? Slide number one. Here in slide number one, this is 38 CFR 4.125, diagnoses of mental disorders. Now, I'm not going to get into all of subpart A, but I'm going to read the first couple of sentences. If the diagnosis of a mental disorder does not conform to DSM-5 or is not supported by the findings of an examination report, DBQ, the rating agency shall return the report to the examiner to substantiate the diagnosis. Okay, so they talk about the DSM-5. The diagnosis has to be in that DSM-5, okay? And your psychiatrist or psychologist should know what the DSM and DSM-5 is. If they don't, that's a serious problem, okay? Okay. Now, subpart B, if the diagnosis of a mental disorder is changed, the rating agency, when they say rating agency, they're talking about the rating activity, the raters, okay? Or it could include DROs, decision review officers at the high level review. The rating agency shall determine whether the new diagnosis represents progression of the prior diagnosis, correction of an error in the prior diagnosis, or development of a new and separate condition. Okay, read that again. If the diagnosis of a mental disorder is changed, the rating agency shall determine whether the new diagnosis represents progression of the prior diagnosis, correction of an error in the prior diagnosis, or development of a new and separate condition. Now, I'm gonna break that down, so don't worry about it just yet. I'm gonna break it down because guess what? I'm gonna drop some nuggets here in a little bit, all right? Moving right along. Slide number two. Slide number two, this is the M21 manual reference. It says, considering a change in a diagnosis of a psychiatric disorder. If the diagnosis of a psychiatric disorder is changed, the rating activity must determine if this represents progression of the prior disorder, correction of an error in the prior diagnosis, or development of a new separate condition. Now, It reads the same as the 38 CFR. So you're saying, Dwayne, why did you show this M21 manual reference? As I stated in some of my other videos, I go to the M21 manual reference first because it is easy to find what 38 CFR corresponds with it. So guess what? That last slide I showed you, 38 CFR 4.125, subpart B, I highlighted. I found this in a matter of seconds. If I'd have went to the 38 CFR, it would have took me a little bit longer, okay? So if you want to learn how to search the M21 manual reference like Google and do how I do it, you can go to my YouTube channel, do a search for M21 manual reference, and it'll come up, okay? Now, I promise you a nugget. Now, when I rated, I saw this often. And private examiners would always screw this up because they did not know. So I'm about to drop a nugget. Get your pen and paper ready, okay? Now, the best way to explain this, I'm gonna give you an example. Let's just say the veteran is service connected at 10% for PTSD. That veteran comes in, files a claim for increase. They go to the compensation and pension exam. And the doctor says the veteran no longer meets the criteria under the DSM-5, we talked about that, for the diagnosis of PTSD. The veteran now presents with a diagnosis of depression. In that remarks section of that DBQ from that CMP examiner, the statement I just gave you is what I'm looking for as a rater. Veteran was previously service connected for PTSD. Upon further review of evidence and the interview with the veteran no longer meets with a diagnosis of PTSD per DSM-5. The veteran now has a diagnosis of depression that is a progression of the service-connected PTSD. Remember those 3 bullet comments that I read? The first one is a progression that needs to be in that CMP exam from the third-party CMP examiner, okay? Now, like I stated earlier, that is another reason why you want to submit that FOIA request and get a copy of that CMP exam, but the rater should catch it. But what if they don't? Okay, more likely it's going to be an error on them, but if you get an increase, that's fine. But you don't want them to come back and say, oh, we're proposing to reduce because we didn't do this, we didn't do that, okay? You want to make sure you're educated and you understand what to look for, and that's what I'm giving to you in these videos as a former rater. Now, let's move on to a veteran submitting a DBQ from their private examiner. You better have that information in there. You could put it right in the remarks section. If it doesn't fit, ask that examiner to complete put that statement on a letterhead. Okay? The veteran no longer meets the DSM-5 criteria for his or her service-connected PTSD. They now meet the diagnosis or have a diagnosis of depression. It wouldn't be a bad idea to explain why that diagnosis changed, okay? And it could go vice versa. But if it goes to PTSD, we all know there needs to be a stressor, okay? So this can get really tricky really fast. You need to know what you are doing and understand what the VA raters supposed to follow as it pertains to the 38 CFR and the M21 manual reference I just showed you. Okay, so that is a huge nugget. Okay, this information is in the 38 CFR and the M21 manual reference. I just given it to you, but make sure you go out and do your additional research. Now, that being said, make sure you like, subscribe, hit that notification button. And as always, don't forget to share this video with your fellow veterans. Thank you.